Schedule Apex is super powerful tool to make your Apex code run at specific times or to run it periodically with some recurring events. And you can run any type of Apex code within Schedule Apex. So it can be your synchronous code that you have written, or it can be any other async code as well, like maybe your batch Apex or your queuable Apex, or maybe your future methods as well. In order to create the Schedule Apex, you need to implement this schedulable interface. And what it does, it gives you an execute method where you need to write your Apex code. So if you want to call your synchronous Apex code, or even if you want to call your async code like batch Apex or queuable Apex, you need to call it from this execute method. This execute method takes a schedulable context as parameter, which is used by the Apex internally. So you won't be using this schedulable context variable in your code. In order to call this schedule Apex, you need to use the schedule method from system class, and this method takes three parameters. The first parameter is the job name, so you can give it any name. The second parameter is something called cron expression, and we are going to talk about this in detail in our coming slide. The third parameter is the instance of your schedule Apex class. In return, this method gives you the job ID, which you can use to track the progress of this job. Now let's talk about this cron expression and what it does. This cron expression decides when your code should be called. In this example, I want to call my class at 8:30 p.m. on the first of every month. And I know this doesn't make any sense to you guys because you don't know how to read a cron expression. So why don't we learn it? This cron expression consists many things. The first number that we are seeing is the seconds. So the seconds can be from 0 to 59. The second parameter that we are seeing, or the second number that we see, is minutes. This can also be anything from 0 to 59. The third number defines the hours, and it can be anything from 0 to 23. The fourth parameter is day of month, and it can be anything from 1 to 31, provided that you are giving correct value here. For example, the day of month cannot be 30 for the month of Feb, so this should be the correct value. It also accepts some special characters like comma, which defines multiple values. For example, if you want to run this job for first and second of each month, then what you can do, you can define 1, 2 here. So you can supply multiple values with the help of comma. You can also use minus or dash here, which defines a range. For example, if you want to run this job on 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th of every month, then you can give a range 1 - 5, which will make this job execute from 1st to 5th of every month. We can also use star, which means all the possible values. So in this case, the job will execute for all the days of a month. We can use question mark as well, which means that you do not want to specify any value for this parameter. And this is something that we use when you either use day of month or day of week. We can also use backslash, which is used to give some kind of counter. For example, let's say if you want to execute this job on the 5th of every month, then you can have something like 1/5. So here the number 5 will be counted from 1. If you do it like 2/5, then this job will execute on 6th of every month. There are two more special characters called L and W. The L means the last possible value. So in case of day of month, it will be the last day of the month. And W means the closest weekday. So let's say if you run this job on 2nd of every month, and if 2nd falls on weekend, then this job will execute on the next possible weekday. After day of month, we need to define month, and this can be any value from 1 to 12. Or if you do not want to use the numeric values, then you can also use Jan to December. We have special characters here as well, and they all holds the same meaning that we have just discussed. After this, we can define the day of week, and this can have a value from 1 to 7 or from Sunday to Saturday, and this also has similar wildcards or special characters. In the end, you can optionally define the year as well, and it's not mandatory. But if you want to give it a value, then make sure that it's between 1970 to 2099. You can also use special characters here in this parameter as well. Now let's see some example cron expressions. So here in this expression, we want to run this job at 1 p.m. every day. So here we have 0 as seconds, then 0 as minutes, 13 defines as 1 p.m. Then we have star in day of month. That means this job will execute for all the days of a month. Then in case of month as well, we have star. So this means this job will execute for all 12 months of an year. And then we have the question mark in case of day of week. That means we do not want to define any value for the day of week. So this will make this job run at 1 p.m. every day. Now let's take a look at another example. And here we want to run this job Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. So again we have 00 for seconds and minutes. For hour we have 10, which makes it 10 a.m. Then we do not want to specify day of month because here we want to run it on day of weeks. For months we have star here, so this job will run for all 12 months. And for days we have Monday through Friday. So this is how you can construct a cron expression, and this is how you can create recurring events as well. Now let's go back to our Salesforce org and let's quickly create a scheduled Apex. Let's create a new class, and this time we are going to name it as lead schedulable. We need to make sure that we implement the schedulable interface. And as soon as you implement this interface, we need to give the definition to the execute method. So let's write our method signature. And this method accepts a schedulable context variable. So let's accept that one. And here we need to write our code. So whatever we are going to write within this execute method is going to execute at the specific time for which we are going to schedule this class. And I want to do the similar operation, so I'm going to copy my code from my queueable class and I'm going to paste it here. Now the next thing would be to call this class, and for that we need to use a cron expression. So let's go to our anonymous window and remove everything. First we are going to create an instance of this class. And then we are going to write a cron expression. So I want to execute this class. Let's pick any random time, maybe 3 p.m. on Mondays of every month. Let's make it 3:30. So let's start by seconds, which is 00. Then since we want to define the time as 3:30, the minutes would be 30 here. And here I'm talking about 3:30 a.m. So the time or the hour would be 3. If we want to define 3 p.m., then it should be 15. After this, we need to define the day of month, and we want to execute it for any day of month. We just want to make sure that it's Monday. So I do not want to define any value inside day of month. So I leave question mark here. Now for the months, I want to run it for all months. So it should be star here. Then comes the day of week. So here I'll give Monday as my value, or you can also give 2 as well. Because remember, you can either use your numeric value which starts from 1 to 7, or you can use non-numeric value as well. and I do not want to give any year, so I leave my cron expression here itself. So the last thing would be to call this class. So for that we can use our schedule method, and it takes the job name as parameter. So let's name it as sample job. Then the cron expression which we have defined, and then the instance of the class. In return, we can take our job ID, and let's print this job ID this time. Let's click on execute. We should see 2 log files. Okay, so this time we are seeing only 1 log file. The reason is our schedule apex is not executed yet, because we have scheduled that to execute at 3:30 a.m. and right now it's 1:46 a.m. here. So that class will execute after 1 hour and 45 minutes, I believe. But we can still see our job ID by checking out our debug logs. So let's click on this debug only button here, and this is our job ID. So we can use this job ID to track the progress of our job. But before that, let's see it inside the setup page. To see it, we need to search for schedule jobs, and here we see our job, and it is scheduled to run at 3:30 a.m. You can delete this job from here, or you can let it execute as well. If you want to track this job with the help of the job ID that we have got in our Apex code, then we can run an SQL query on the cron trigger object. So let's go to file and click on this open resource, and here search for cron trigger. So this is the object that I'm talking about, and here let's select some of the fields, and I can pass my ID that I've got from my debug logs here in order to get our job details. And let's click on execute. So this is our job, and here it says that it's still waiting to execute because our next run time is at 3:30 a.m. So that's all about schedule Apex, and that's all in asynchronous Apex section. I hope you got a fair idea of all the asynchronous Apex features and how to use them. The key would be to practice it on your own, especially the future methods and the batch Apex, because these are the most used async Apex features and you might get a interview question on these. If you have a query or doubt, then you can always reach out to me via the Q&A section of this course, and I'll try to respond as soon as I can.